Welcome to a brand new episode of This Week in Apps. I'm Ariel from Appfigures, and here's your weekly roundup of the most interesting developments in the world of mobile apps and games. Let's get started. I talk about streamers all the time, and I almost always focus on the big names like HBO Max and Disney+. They're popular, they have a great attractive content, and they usually dominate the charts, which is why I talk about them all the time. But while that's all nice, there's another streaming service that's been around longer and has grown tremendously that's rarely talked about. I'm not exactly sure why. Hulu. Hulu has been one of the highest earning apps in the US for as long as I can remember. It's been making money from streaming way before Disney Plus and HBO Max even existed. How much money? In 2017, Hulu's net revenue from the App Store was around $3 million per month, according to estimates. And I'm only including App Store revenue here because it uses in-app purchases on the App Store, but not on Google Play, so I don't have great visibility there. Now you know. Fast forward to 2021, when Hulu had its best month of revenue, and that monthly total climbed to $23 million of net revenue. Net means it's what Hulu gets to keep after paying Apple its 30% fee. That's an increase of nearly 700%. The number slowed down a bit, and Hulu ended April of 2022 with $19 million of net revenue, according to our estimates. Less good, obviously, but overall, still a great achievement for the streamer. In my opinion, what Hulu has that's different from other streamers is its catalog of content. Netflix's catalog has dwindled over the years as it shifted to focus on exclusive content, which ultimately took a toll on revenue and growth. And I'll link to my analysis of Netflix at the end of this video in case you haven't watched it. Hulu's catalog is going strong, mixing in some exclusives with a whole lot of familiar titles, and I think that's really, really good for them. Next, food delivery apps have grown a bunch over the last couple of years as everything moves to be done from home. That caused food chains to try getting ahead as well, giving free food for downloads. A fair trade as far as I'm concerned, but most of them couldn't really turn these crazy campaigns into sustained downloads. And then we have McDonald's. I rounded up the most popular food apps in the US and compared their downloads in 2020, the year where they were all experimenting, to 2021, the year where they all should have had a solid strategy for after 2020. Of the 10 apps I looked at, the downloads of half actually shrunk. Pizza Hut, Chipotle, Chick-fil-A, Burger King, and Subway also downloads decrease in 2021 compared to 2020. Pizza Hut suffered only a tiny bit, losing about 4% of downloads, but Subway saw a decrease of more than 32%. That's not great, and I'm being nice here. McDonald's, Panera Bread, Wendy's, Domino's Pizza, and Taco Bell also increases, ranging from 5% on the low end to as much as 23% on the McDonald's end. While percentages are a great way to show differences, they only tell half of this story. So not only was McDonald's the app with the most growth year over year, it was also the app with the most downloads, and by far. McDonald's ended 2021 with 18 million estimated downloads. The closest app that I can find in terms of downloads was Chick-fil-A. We estimated added 9 million new downloads, so just a half of what McDonald's added. As we inch closer to summer, the time when most of these apps spring into action, no pun intended there, I expect we'll see more of the same. A not-so-great strategy that will allow McDonald's, in my opinion, to continue distancing itself from the pack. Side note, do you like the episodes so far? Take a moment to hit the like button. It's easy, and it helps me know what kind of content to cover in the future. Moving on. Are apps still making money? Why, yes. Yes, they do. I crunched the numbers and rounded up the top 10 highest earning apps in the US by store and combined so you can see just how much money is going around. TikTok was the highest earning app in the US in April. Shocker. And that's sarcasm, by the way. TikTok's revenue continues its massive growth sprout that started in late 2021 and really hasn't stopped yet. It brought in $56 million of net revenue in April from the US, according to our estimates. HBO Max and YouTube tied for second place, both earning $47 million of net revenue, according to our estimates. And to me, that's a serious win for HBO Max, considering rival Disney Plus earned about half of that in the US and only got to fifth place on my list. One name that's been an invisible staple of this list got pushed out in April. Can you guess who? Drop a comment before I tell you. I'll give you a second. It was Big O Live. Indeed snagged the last place with seriously massive bump in new revenue in April, adding $12 million of net revenue to its bottom line from the US in April alone, according to our estimates. Will Big O come back next month? Considering Twitch is no longer even close to making its way into our list, I have a feeling it may not. We'll just have to wait and see. Together, the highest earners brought in $316 million of net revenue from the US in April, which is roughly on par with March. Considering the list is nearly identical, that isn't a surprise. I also crunched the numbers and ranked the highest earning games in the US, and to compare this list to last month's, you'll really have to squint. Candy Crush was the highest earning game in the US in April with $94 million of net revenue, according to estimates. Yes, almost $100 million in net revenue, and net meaning after store fees. That's a serious caboodle, higher than March's total, or 59% if you'd rather look at real numbers as a point of comparison. Roblox scored the second spot overall with $59 million of net revenue, according to estimates, and that total is a little bit lower than March, which isn't all that surprising because the game has kind of been all over the place when it comes to revenue, yet even when revenue drops, Roblox still remains at the top. Call of Duty, which came in at number 7, made its way back into the list with a serious increase in revenue in April, having nearly disappeared completely in March. And speaking of dropping off, Garena Free Fire didn't make the cut in April, which was a bit surprising to me. The popular title earned single-digit millions across both stores, which wasn't enough to bring it into the top 10 in April. Together, the highest-earning games raked in $331 million of net revenue from the US in April, about 5% higher than March's total, and I expect to see more increases as advertisers learn to play in a post-app tracking transparency world. And last for this week, Johnny Depp is in court, and an app most people didn't even know existed is having a great couple of weeks. Core TV, an app that's just like the channel, is dedicated to streaming normally boring court cases, has seen its downloads grow by a factor of 10. Our estimates show that in the last 2 weeks, downloads have gone from a little under 1,000 per week to almost 10,000 per week in the last 2 weeks consistently. The reason? Captain Jack Sparrow is suing his ex-wife for defamation, and the whole thing is streaming on Core TV's app. Unlike the movies, this trial isn't really that exciting, in my opinion, but it's got a bunch of celebrities, it's got Johnny Depp, and more importantly, a glimpse into the life of the rich and the crazy. It's hard to say no to that. So, 10,000 downloads isn't a lot by any stretch. HBO Max sees that in about an hour, but it's a massive gain for an otherwise unknown app and another reminder that streaming is quite officially mainstream, and pun somewhat intended. That's all I have for you this week. If you like this video, make sure to hit the like button and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. I'll see you next week.